Welcome to Real Love, Real Stories TV and podcast. I'm Kanu and I'm the host. Join me as I learn about love from couples who are making their relationships work and from singles who are making being single fun. In this week's episode, in the guest chair is Juliette Marie, and we are talking about a few steps to healing and recovery after a breakup. And just thinking about some of the reasons why couples break up, whether it's a dating couple or married couples. And I wanted to share some of the top 5 reasons that I found. So number 5 came up with control issues. One of the partners, and sometimes both, might have control issues, and that will result in the couple breaking up. Number 4 came up with social isolation, where one of the partners is, isolated by their other partner from any social activities, even being on social media, even hanging out with friends that they used to. And it might seem like love at first because, they want to spend a lot of time together. But if you don't watch it, this partner can essentially isolate you from the people that you love and that care about you. And number 3 was abuse, which, it can be physical or it can be mental. And we all know that a relationship that is, has abuse in it, it will not last. And then number 2 was finances, which was surprising to me in terms of couples that are dating. But yeah, it is actually a cause for relationships to break up. And it's usually about disagreements of maybe one of the partners does excessive spending, maybe one of the partners has a lot of debt, and even how much risk they are willing to take with their money. That the other partner, if they're dating, is not comfortable, being with somebody who takes some risks. And also if they're married, right? Gambling was one of the things that came up as well. And then number 1, which to me is a no-brainer, poor communication. Absolutely. I feel like relationships, the number 1 thing that you have to master as a couple is communication. How do you communicate? And I think it ties into what I talked about in the last episode in terms of knowing what your partner, how to love your partner. What is their love language? And if you know that, I feel like you can easily figure out a way to communicate with them based on how they want to be loved. So now let's listen to Juliette Marie's story and some of the steps that she took to heal and recover from her breakup. So do you mind starting off by introducing yourself to my audience?
Sure. I'm Juliette Marie, and I'm the owner of Glowing Soul Wellness. I teach yoga. I also do some life coaching, and my passion resides in holistic healing and wellness.
Yeah, I like her so much. I invited her because I've taken some of her yoga classes here in Phoenix, Arizona. So today we are going to be talking about, when life happens, when you're dating and then, you break up with your partner. And so we're going to be talking about how do you get over a breakup? What are some of those self-care things that you do? And I know that you recently said we went through a breakup. So maybe to start off with, can you share a little bit about your recent breakup?
So my recent breakup. I don't know if I would consider it recent, but we kind of got back, we broke up and then we got back together. So there's kind of that gray area of when did it really end? Because, sometimes it takes a while for the passion to leave and, has it really ever left? That's the question. But, so I went through a breakup. I think it was June.
Of last year.
June of last year. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I went through depression and all of the stages that you go through, trying to process what happened and denial. Yeah. And
how long had you guys been dating?
We were together about 1.5 years.
Okay.
About 1.5 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot to process. I went through a really dark time, and during that time, I also found a lot of strength.
Yeah.
And really took that opportunity as a time to work on myself and find love within.
Right, which is very, very important. And I have to say that, I met Juliette sometime last year, like I said, doing yoga, and I just loved her energy, which is why I invited her to come and share her story today. So yeah, go ahead and continue with your story.
Yeah. So, I went through depression. I went through denial of, is this real? Is this real? Like, I went through anger. I went through feeling betrayed. It is like a death because I feel that he was my best friend. We did everything together,
right.
And we had a lot of the same interests and a lot of the same friends. And, losing someone that you love, it's, you feel that emptiness.
Right.
And so I cried a lot. And what I realized is that the people that you love will be there and the people that are your friends will show up. And I just had so much support.
Oh, I love that.
And I had so many friends come to me and just give me so much love. And I think that helped so much.
Yeah.
And another thing that really helped me heal was nature.
Okay.
So I made a conscious effort to go into nature and go hiking and go camping and go swimming in natural water sources around Arizona and really get in touch with nature. And, yoga and meditation helped, and eating healthy and juicing and just being around positive people. Music was a big healer for me. My roommate, she plays guitar and sings. And so she inspired me to pick up the guitar and start practicing.
Oh, I love it.
So that really helped me.
Have you done that before?
I've been trying to learn guitar for about 10 years now or more. My dad's a musician and I always hit a roadblock. Okay. So everybody thinks they could just pick up a guitar and start playing.
Right.
And I hit a roadblock. And so she just did it so effortlessly and organically and freely that I felt like, why are we complicating this? Let me just feel it.
There you go.
And actually, I just wrote a recent song. It's very amateurish, but it was about my feelings after the breakup.
Oh,
and it just flowed out naturally because I didn't have anything written down on paper. And so I said, let me just feel it. Let me just feel it. And I was kind of channeling these lyrics. Okay. And I'll have to share it sometime once I fine tune it, but it's just a real rough draft. But I think things like breakups, they inspire a lot of artists. So a lot of great art, a lot of great writings, a lot of great poetry. Right. Everything is through feelings and emotions of love, which I think love is one of the biggest drugs, the biggest highs. Right. And you can channel that energy of that emotion that you're feeling into some art form.
Right. Which is very important, right? Because I think a lot of people, when they break up, that's when, for an artist to be able to channel that into your art, that's awesome. Versus some that break up and then you channel that energy into it like a negative thing, like doing drugs or drinking alcohol. So kudos to you for finding that art form and being able to put your, to tap into your love of playing guitar and singing. So, and
also I painted my first painting piece in my adulthood. Okay. So it was actually kind of a self-portrait of myself. And I kind of looked into her eyes and saw the healing that she has gone through and is still going through. And so I think, taking any kind of dark time or a negative emotion or feeling and kind of making it into a positive and channeling that energy.
Yeah, I really, really like that. So you mentioned you're hiking. It's so hot in Arizona. Were you able to still hike throughout the summer?
I would go up north and go to Sedona and places like that. I would always find places with water. Okay. So there's Fossil Creek, and there's a place that you could swim.
Oh, that's nice.
In the creek.
And there's some good energy in being around water, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm a water sign, and so Scorpio. Okay. And so I love the water. And I just surround myself with positive people, music, art, my passions, my purpose. And what I realized is that love is such a powerful emotion. But I feel that if I didn't have a strong sense of self, of who I was before the relationship, I see a lot of women and a lot of my friends, they put everything, their whole life into a partner.
Right.
And the partner's their entire world. And then when the partner leaves or they break up, then it's like, what do I do? What is my purpose? What is my life?
Absolutely.
And I think I had a strong identity before the relationship. I was single for 5 years.
Right.
And I took a year off of dating and I completely worked on myself.
Oh.
So when I met him, I was so sure of who I was and so comfortable on my own.
Right.
I was so fulfilled on my own that I felt like, if you don't have that strong identity, and then I think it all goes back to self-love, is that, loving yourself and knowing that you are whole and you're complete, without a partner. And a partner is an addition, and that a partner should add to you, not take away or be your everything where you have nothing if they're gone.
I think that's the mistake that a lot of people, even myself, have made in the past, where we feel like we're so in love with this person, and then when the relationship ends, it's like, like you said, it's like a death almost. I think you mentioned that earlier, where then you get into this mourning phase, and actually you're grieving a loss of this relationship, and so which then you could spiral into something really bad, depression being one of them.
And I definitely went through my share of depression. Right. I mean, I went through my share of being bedridden and crying. And what really helped is journaling too.
Okay.
Journaling, because I had all these emotions and I just wrote it all out and it was just pouring out. And it helped so much, journaling. And then I look back and then I'm like, okay, wow, I felt that way, because it's kind of like a time machine of that emotion. Because you could remember events, but then your emotion about those events will change.
Absolutely.
So going back into time and seeing where you were, and
I'm a huge advocate for journaling myself. I just did an episode 2 episodes ago where I shared. I still have a diary that I used to write in from 1994.
Wow.
And I talked about having a crush on a guy it was nice to go back and read through all those entries that I put back then, and, have those feelings that I had for him actually reignited because of reading from my journal. What was also good was just to revisit things that I had written from the past, which I was still very young. I mean, I was way young then, but, it was nice to go through and read. And I still, to this day, I journal every year. I don't do it every day, but I do it, I do it every year.
And I think there's something really nice about pen on paper.
Right.
Because I think we're so consumed with technology that, Facebook and social media is kind of like a journal.
Right.
But something about the rawness and realness of being on paper, writing it out, the feeling of the writing.
Right. Yeah, and there's some things that you don't want to put on social media.
Totally.
Right? You want to keep to yourself.
I know, totally.
So
it's definitely nice to look back at and see where you are and see how that feeling changed, because I think your perception of what happened changes over time.
Absolutely.
So this is kind of a capture of what you were feeling in that time.
Yeah. I like how you started off by talking about, the 5 years prior to this relationship, that you had worked on yourself. And, when you really got to know yourself, I think it helps in terms of, like what you said, in terms of getting over a relationship or a loss of a relationship, because you know who you are and you value yourself. I think that you're enough just by yourself. I think it ties into what you were talking about earlier about, some people are in relationships where they put their all into this partner. And then when that relationship ends, it's like their whole world is just shattered into pieces. So I really like what you talked about in terms of working, that self-care, that self-love. So if somebody's out there is experiencing a breakup, or maybe they just went through a breakup and maybe they're in that depression phase, what would be some of the things that you would share with that person to help them get through this really dark time?
I would say is allow yourself to feel those emotions, and that's okay and that's normal. And I think recognizing them and having the awareness of how you feel, because so often we try to repress how we're feeling and saying, this is wrong, I have to be happy, I'm not allowed to feel sad. So just allowing yourself to cry, allowing yourself to grieve. allowing yourself to process. And then what I would say is just surrounding yourself with people. And it took a while for me. I became very introverted. I didn't want to go out, but surrounding yourself with positive people.
Absolutely.
And also talking about it, because I think a lot of times we keep it inside, or we're embarrassed, or we're ashamed, or we don't want to talk about it. So talking about it with someone you trust. And then also just finding a hobby or interest or something that you love to focus your energy on. Mine was nature and hiking and being outdoors, and that really helped. I also love yoga. So sometimes it's hard when you're in such a depressed state to actually do that. But like getting to the gym or getting to a yoga class, the hardest part is getting there. And then once you're there, that could really heal. I've also, burned incense and sage and lit music, or not lit music, played music, but yeah, writing, journaling, whatever your passion is. And then if there's those times that you just want to be in bed and binge on Netflix, that's okay too.
Yeah.
That's okay. And if you don't want to talk to anybody and you just want to be and just do nothing, that's okay. So just kind of honoring yourself of where you are without judgment and being kind to yourself.
Yeah, and knowing that, binging on Netflix and just being quiet by yourself, that you put a time frame to it, because if you're doing it over and over, then it becomes unhealthy.
Totally.
Yeah.
And knowing that where you are will pass. So a lot of people think it's a death sentence. I know, especially all the breakups I've gone through, when it first happens, you think, will I ever get over this? Oh my gosh, will I ever be healed? Will I ever find love after this? And just knowing that this will pass, because I've had my heart broken multiple times, and I always got over it. And then I realized, wow, I'm so happy that didn't work out. Now I know why. And if you trust that there's a plan and okay, the universe will provide, there's a reason this didn't work out. I have to let go of the control and I have to surrender. Because I think when we try to force things and be desperate and be like, why? Oh my God, I don't want this to end, and hold on and cling. It's like that quote, let go or be dragged.
Oh,
I don't know if you've ever heard that, but that's such a good symbolism, because I feel that we try to grasp on our concept or idea of how we fantasize how the relationship was. So a lot of people fall in love with their perception of their ideal person, and they are willing to look beyond a lot of the flaws because of love, which is like a drug, and they fall in love with the concept of the potential of who they think that person is, and not the actual person. And so, so just allowing everything to take its course, and, not being hard on yourself, and really coming down to, was I in love with the person, or was I in love with my concept of who I thought that person was? But a lot of times we fall in love with how that person makes us feel. So I thought of the relationship and a lot of things that we did together, and I'm like, okay, that brought me love. Like all these things in nature brought me love, and holistic healing is love, and all my passions that I did in the relationship. And so I was like, okay, if I could do this in a relationship, why can't I do it alone? So for example, one of the first dates I had with my old boyfriend was, we picked oranges and citrus, because it was citrus season. And so this year came around, and I said, that was a great memory, and I really want to pick citrus, but it's going to remind me of my old boyfriend. But I said, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. And I did it, and it felt great. And I said, I could do this in a relationship or without a relationship. I don't need a relationship to do these things.
Good for you.
But a lot of times things will remind us of that person. And people avoid that. They say, oh, this song reminds me of them, or this movie reminds me of them, or this anything. It could be a pencil or something. I'm just looking at a pencil on the table, like something random that's silly that could remind you of the person. And that's okay.
They won't do it,
they don't want to do it. They avoid places, or they avoid people. And so I just say, be yourself. You don't have to avoid situations. And yeah, I mean, I'm continuing to do everything that I did while I was in the relationship. And I think people tend to jump into a relationship and they stop doing everything they did before the relationship, or they're out of the relationship and they stop everything they did that they were in the relationship. So I think what I feel is just be who you are with or without a relationship. And you're whole and complete on your own. That's the biggest thing for me, is that. Another thing is dating sites. Wow. That's a whole nother topic. But I see a lot of friends that they're on these dating sites such as Tinder or,
Bumble.
Bumble and all these things, which I've gone on all of them and I deleted them all. But what I find is a lot of my friends say, they're looking and they're searching and they're searching and they're searching and they're searching. And it's like, I just feel, how I feel right now is that dating is not like how it used to be. And, there's a lot of success stories with online dating. Like, don't get me wrong. But like friends are coming to me recently and they're just like, they can't be alone. That's the biggest thing. They can't be alone.
Yeah.
And so they'll go on Tinder, they'll go on here and they just want that instant gratification.
Yeah.
But I feel that when you're so comfortable on your own and you know who you are and you have a sense of self and you have a sense of purpose, that's when it's going to happen.
Right. Love will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can't really just be so, you have to put yourself out there,
right.
But at the same time, you don't want to be so hungry for it.
Yeah, I think you should allow yourself to go through the process of that healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really.
And people jump in from one relationship to another and they never take that time to heal.
Never works.
And then the same triggers are going to come up. If they have any trauma from the past relationship, it's going to re-trigger them. And so I think the biggest thing is taking that time after a relationship, especially, the scariest thing is being alone after.
Right.
So for instance, for me was, I liked having someone, to talk to and text every morning and night, someone to eat dinner with, someone to sleep next to, someone to cuddle with and show affection, all those things. And it's like, okay, but I'm not going to settle for anyone. I don't want to just settle out of loneliness for the next guy that comes along.
That's called self-love.
So that's self-love, right? And so it's like, it's so easy to jump into something else because you don't want to be alone and you want that validation and you want that love and that support.
Yeah.
But what I'm finding now is that I could find that through friends. That friends are like my biggest lovers in a sense of a platonic love. And, because when you're in a relationship, it is your friend.
Oh, absolutely.
That person is your friend. So if you surround yourself with other friends and knowing it doesn't have to be a romantic love. And so, what I would say to people is if you're going through a breakup, take the time to heal because so often you just want to jump right in. And a lot of girlfriends do that. They say, oh, that's the only way I could get over it. If I just put myself back on Tinder and I just start dating, I'll get over it. I'm like, no, but you never healed.
Right.
So it's like the same thing again. And right now I'm just working on myself and I just feel like it happens when you're not looking. And actually, my old boyfriend, I hate to use the word ex-boyfriend because I feel like it has such a negative.
Right. So that's why
I say old boyfriend because I think the ex-boyfriend has like a negative feel to it.
Yeah.
But when I met him, I was not looking. It was a natural, gradual process. And it just happened very organically.
Right. So maybe this time around, it'll happen like that too.
I hope.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, well, there you go, folks. If you're going through a breakup, if you're going through not even just a breakup, sometimes you just need, to do some of these things that Juliette shared today. Journaling, I think it applies to anyone, whether you're in a relationship or not. And I like the idea of doing things on your own, regardless of whether you're doing it with a partner or not, because I think, I just did an episode also talking about traveling,
Oh, that's something I want to do.
One of the guest that I interviewed, she went to France on her own, whereas, when you try to wait for people to align the schedules to align, it never happens. So it's like, why wait? And that's my word for this year is now. I'm going to do anything I want now. I'm not going to wait because life is just so unpredictable.
Because we're always waiting for the perfect moment.
And sometimes it never comes. So yeah, well, there you have it, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to go to iTunes. You can subscribe, rate, and write a review. And also, you can always find more information about any of the episodes on my website, www.realloverealstories.com. And remember to follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and it's all under Real Love, Real Stories. Till next time.